And we are rolling. Hey guys, how's it going? It's your buddy Jake Dominguez back with another movie review. Now, today I'm going to review How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the Jim Carrey one from November 2000. Yeah, this is the movie I'm recording. This is like a classic movie review, if you will. Now I know what you're thinking. Jacob, why the heck are you reviewing this movie right here? Well, obviously, as I'm recording this, it's a few days until Christmas, right? And I wanted to review kind of an old Christmas movie. So I went through all the classic kind of Christmas films I could review, like Miracle on 34th Street and stuff like that. You know what I mean? But I decided to review this movie. Why? Because there's a few reasons why. Number one, I watch this movie every year. I'm going to talk about that in a bit. And next year, we are going to get a brand new adaptation of Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Illumination Entertainment, who made Despicable Me, Sing, what else? You know, those kind of movies. They're making a new adaptation of The Grinch. They just recently released the very first poster. I'm not too excited for this movie, to be honest. I'm a little hesitant. I mean, I'm going to go see it, but I've been pretty disappointed with most of Illumination Entertainment recent movies, and I really didn't like their version of the Lorax, which they did. I didn't like that movie. I thought it was a pretty poor adaptation of Dr. Seuss's book. Didn't really capture the tone of it very well, so I don't know. But the Grinch in this new movie is going to be played by Benedict Cumberbatch. That's a pretty great casting choice. If you have to get someone to voice a new Grinch, I couldn't think of anyone better than that, so we'll see. But when this movie comes out, I'm definitely going to do a review of it. So why not review this old Grinch movie right now? Not to mention, it also works out because later this year, in May, as of now, we're going to get a brand new Star Wars movie. Solo, a Star Wars story. Yeah, I know. It always goes back to the Star Wars with me. I'm sorry. But the director on that, the credited director, is going to be Ron Howard, who's one of my personal favorite filmmakers, and what is, he directed this movie as well. He's directed a ton of movies that I wanted to do kind of a series of reviews for in the lead up to that movie in May of next year. A lot of people really liked my series of Rian Johnson reviews leading up to Star Wars The Last Jedi. Why not get a head start? So this is my review of How the Grinch Stole Christmas. After that huge intro, let's get started. So this movie came out in November of 2000. It was one of the biggest hits of that year. I remember seeing this with my family when I was like 5 or 6. I remember we were in the very front of the theater because of how sold out it was. It was a very successful film. It was one of the most successful films of that year, and it won the Academy Award for Best Makeup. It was Rick Baker and someone else who I unfortunately don't remember right now, but Rick Baker, what a genius makeup designer. If you don't know who Rick Baker is, you've seen a movie, a TV show, or something that he's worked on. He's great. But anyway, it came out so many years ago, and I pretty much have watched this movie ever since. Every single year. It's not Christmas unless I watch How the Grinch Stole Christmas, directed by Ron Howard, starring Jim Carrey. This movie I watch every year. And a lot of people, lots of people, hate this movie. Now, I think the majority of people like this movie. It's become a nostalgia thing. It's become a holiday tradition. But even at the time of its release, it got pretty mixed to negative reviews. And even nowadays, I'll occasionally hear critics and other people kind of hate on this movie. And maybe some of that is deserved, because How the Grinch Stole Christmas is definitely a flawed movie. I do have some issues with this film. But I'm sorry, I actually really like this movie. I think it's one of my guilty pleasure movies, if you will. You know what I mean? Ever hear that term, guilty pleasure? I guess How the Grinch Stole Christmas is kind of like that for me. Now, Dr. Seuss is a genius. Well, he was a genius, and he still is a genius to this day. To this very day, little kids read his children's books. He was a brilliant writer, and you could read him as an adult and still learn all the lessons and stuff and subtext that he put in his books. He's one of the greatest writers, illustrators, period, who ever lived. He was a brilliant man. I could remember reading Dr. Seuss books when I was very little. And as far as I can remember Dr. Seuss. This movie was the very first Dr. Seuss adaptation. It was a huge deal at the time. There was a big betting war for the rights for some of his books, and this was the very first one. And one of the things I do like about How the Grinch Stole Christmas is that for the most part, I think they got the tone pretty correctly. For the most part, this is a visually really pretty movie. All the sets, all the characters look like they came out of Dr. Seuss's books. All the production design is great. This is a very expensive looking, beautiful looking movie. And the makeup, like I was already praising Rick Baker a while ago, the makeup is really wonderful. All the Who's in this movie who live down in Whoville all look really good. Like they have the Who noses and stuff. And for the most part, it works. The makeup for the Grinch is one of the best makeup designs that has ever been given to an actor, in my opinion. Like it doesn't even look like real makeup or whatever. Like you buy it. And they make it so Jim Carrey can still do all his facial expressions and stuff, and it works. For the most part, I think the tone of Dr. Seuss is in this movie. With a few exceptions, but I'll get to that later. At the very least, it visually looks like Dr. Seuss come from the pages and onto the big screen. Another thing I like about this movie is just the Christmas spirit that is in it. Ron Howard is brilliant at making movies with heart. It's something he does so well. When I look at all of his films, and he's made so many different movies in so many different genres, a constant theme in his work is the amount of heart in his work. His movies always have so much just, that feeling of joy and happiness to them, for the most part, without ever getting too schmaltzy. And that's hard to do, and he does it pretty darn well in this movie. There are some times where it gets a little schmaltzy, like there's a part where Cindy Lou Who sings a song, which is a little cheesy, it's a little too much. You can tell that she's just, it's there because it's a Christmas music, and it's Christmas movie, and they need to sing a song. It's a little cheesy, but it kind of works with the tone of everything else. And there's a lot of heart to this movie. And the theme of Dr. Seuss's book, the theme of, the Christmas spirit and what Christmas is really about giving and about the problems of materialism and stuff like that, are in this movie. Ron Howard, when he went to direct this movie with, of course, his normal producer, Brian Grazer, a big thing he wanted to do was, first of all, he wanted to make the character of Cindy Lou Who into a bigger character. If you all know the book and have seen the Chuck Jones cartoon special, she's just a very minor character. They basically made her almost the main character along with the Grinch in this movie, and I think it works pretty well. And he also wanted to do that theme with consumerism. He made all the Who's kind of guilty of what the Grinch thinks they're guilty about. They're kind of just in for Christmas for the presents and all of that. And I think that theme comes across pretty well in this movie. And overall, this movie is just fun to watch. I just find it entertaining, and it mostly works. I think the score is done by James Horner, and it's a really good score. I'm pretty sure it's by now. I'm second guessing myself, but if I'm wrong, I'll let you know down in the comments section below. But what a wonderful score this is. It's really beautiful. They have that song sung by Faith Hill, Where Are You Christmas, that is still sung to this day. And it works really well. It's a beautiful song. However, there is one thing about this movie that I still really like. And of course, that's Jim Carrey as the Grinch. Man, Jim Carrey is excellent in this movie. He is hilarious. He is so funny. I love him in this role. He makes me laugh the entire time. There's a few times where maybe it goes a little too far, like there's times where he breaks the fourth wall and stuff, which I never loved. But for the most part, for more than the most part, he's hilarious. He's so funny. He is kind of perfect as the Grinch. You couldn't get a better live-action Grinch, and he does it so well. And he kind of keeps the movie kind of working. This is a tonally weird movie. In fact, I haven't even really explained what the plot is for this movie, because you all know the Grinch. You have seen the Chuck Jones special. There's a Grinch. He wants to take away Christmas and steal it from all the Who's and Whoville. You know the story. And this movie does a really good job with the Grinch's character. It gives him more of a character arc and a reason to hate Christmas. And, well, it kind of works. They took this children's book, and they expanded it into a full-length movie. And for the most part, it works. I think they did as great a job of that as you can. And that's my main thing with this movie. For a live-action movie version of How the Grinch Stole Christmas, I think they did it about as well as you probably could. It's tonally weird, and that sort of thing, and it does have its flaws, which I'll get to in a moment. But it kind of works. It's a fun Christmas movie. Jim Carrey's great, and the themes of Christmas spirit and all that are there. Now, How the Grinch Stole Christmas does have some problems. I can totally understand why people don't like this movie and why it does get some flack. This is a very over-the-top movie, sometimes maybe a little too over-the-top. And as beautiful as it is, all the sets are amazing. It does always feel like you're on a movie set. You know what I mean? Like, it never feels like you're in a real world. It just feels like a set on a stage somewhere. You know what I mean? Like, you can watch movies, and of course they're always on movie sets, but with this movie, as beautiful and detailed as it all is, it does kind of feel like you're on a set. It doesn't feel like you're in a real Whoville. I also really like the Grinch's lair in this movie, because it reminds me a lot of the Batcave. I'm serious. Watch this movie. If you put a Batmobile in the Grinch's cave in this movie, and added, like, less colorful lights, and just make it more black and dark looking, you can have this set, and just make it the Batcave set for a Batman movie. Think about that. It was distracting me a lot while I was watching this movie. And there's also a lot of references to the Chuck Jones television, special, the classic. I love that, but there's some people who don't. They thought it should have been more its own thing. I've heard that before. I disagree. I think it works really well. They keep the Grinch green, just like the Chuck Jones television special does. And I really like that. But my biggest issue of this movie is some of the humor. For the most part, this movie is really funny. It's really hilarious. There are some times where some crude humor and kind of rude humor gets into the movie, though, and it just totally doesn't fit in with the rest of the film. That is by far the criticism I've heard the most about this movie, and I got a lot of flack for it when this movie came out in theaters. There's only a few little bits, and it's nothing too horribly adult or anything. I mean, it's a PG movie, kids can watch it, it's a family movie. But it does feel tonally inconsistent with the feel of the movie when those jokes come. And it obviously doesn't really feel like a Dr. Seuss movie. And I don't know, it makes me wonder if that was kind of just studio notes, or if that was just Jim Carrey kind of improvising and being funny. I don't know. But those do kind of distract from the rest of the movie. As much as I love the music, there's also some times where there's some questionable musical choices. There's like music pop songs. Pop songs in this movie by like Ben Folds. I think there's a Smash Mouth song in this movie. Even when I was a little kid, that distracted me. Again, it just doesn't fit in with the rest of the Christmassy vibe of the movie. But they're very much in the background and hardly even noticeable, so it's not so bad. It's not so distracting. And overall, I like this movie. Is it flawed? Oh yeah. But I watch it every year. It's a guilty pleasure. I think it's funny. I think it's sweet. It's a mostly well-directed movie. It's very pretty to watch. And it does about as good a job of the Grinch story in live action as you can probably expect. In fact, just a movie, period. They took this little Christmas, book, expanded it to a feature-length script, made this movie, and for what it is, it kind of works. I'm going to give How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the Jim Carrey Ron Howard edition, a B-. Yeah, I've watched this movie like 3 times already this year. Pretty cool. And did you know that Bryce Dallas Howard, the actress Ron Howard's daughter, has a brief cameo in this movie? As does Clint Howard, his brother, who always gives parts of this movie, has a small role in here. And Rance Howard, who just recently passed away, is in this movie as well. He's a brief cameo. May you rest in peace. What a great actor. Well, guys, that is my review of How the Grinch Stole Christmas. What do you think of this movie? Let me know down in the comments section below. And what is your favorite Christmas guilty pleasure movie? Please let me know down in the comments section below again. And never forget, I'm your friend. I'm always going to be there for you. Thank you so much for watching this video and for all you've done for me. You guys are the best. And now, I'm going to keep this Santa hat on, because Christmas is upon us. You guys are the greatest, and I will see you next time.